Hello, welcome back. It is week 182 on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how we doing this week, baby?
Jeff, I am keen as a bean and cruising for a bruising. I'm ready for another episode of America's favorite podcast. And I would happen to guess probably North Korea's favorite podcast too, because it doesn't seem that competitive. So I'll say it. I don't think there's anything. Prove me wrong.
Well, I mean, that's a market we haven't thought of cornering yet, but I think it's very doable.
I used to joke about on my other podcast that the only people this is for is people who leave something on for their dogs to keep them company when they go out on a date and Korean crab fishermen. And so that market is now completely untapped with that podcast being defunct. So the time is now to capitalize on the old audience, Jeff. We're cross-contaminating, baby.
It's ours for the taking. We just gotta reach out and grab it.
You bet.
Well, this week we are going to talk about Bon Iver and the new album SABLE, fABLE. But first, we've talked about this man a whole lot on this podcast, and I bet you still can't guess which one I'm talking about because we've talked about both. But I'm going to lead off by saying our man, the boss, the Prince of New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen, had some choice words for the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Among those words was corrupt, incompetent, treasonous, mentioned how they're taking away free speech, they're deporting people without any sort of due process, went pretty hard in the paint on the old turnip. And Donald Trump naturally could not let that just slide, could not just let that go. And you know what? I should have had you pull up the tweet and then read it in his voice. I don't know if you could do that real quick. See if you can find it real quick. Give me the high sign if you do, and I'll ramble a little bit more about the situation. But since then, other musicians have hopped on the bandwagon. So Neil Young has spoken out, as he often does. He's kind of the Bernie Sanders of rock and roll, I think. You also had Donald Trump say something about how Taylor Swift is no longer hot. And while I may agree about the music in that case, I don't know that that's something he can necessarily be the judge of. And were you able to find it?
It's going to crush my phone. Full disclosure to you and the people at home. I'm using a hotspot because my internet shit its pants. I tried to look it up and immediately my phone was like, oh, don't do this. Oh, we can talk about this.
We can talk about this later. Okay. Well, folks, just go find that tweet. You'll find it on any news site. Just scroll back to, what was it, May 17th or 18th or whatever, when it happened. Just scroll back there. You'll see it, whatever news site you look at. But really, really interesting moment in time right now. There's been a lot of times, obviously music has always been a form of protest, especially in America. Definitely around the world as well, but especially in America. You go all the way back to the songs they were singing on the plantations to get through the day. And a lot of those had connotations about if they had a chance, how they'd just kind of overturn and overthrow everything. Then you get into like the folk music, like Woody Guthrie. Even a lot of the like Delta blues music had a lot of protest kind of slant to it in a lot of cases. It was talking about how things weren't provided, things were taken from them, and things were not provided to replace that. And that's very basic terms. We can get into all that stuff. Probably look to a history podcast and do a much better job, but just broad strokes. Protest has always been a huge part of music. So it's no surprise to me that someone like Bruce Springsteen, who has consistently made that a part of his whole gig, is kind of, born in the USA, famously was used by Ronald Reagan, unbeknownst to him that was not a patriotic type of song, or not patriotic in the way that he thought it was. Patriotic in the way that I consider myself to be, which is, I think we could be doing a whole lot better, and I wish we would, because I do love this country. And I think that's Bruce Springsteen's whole thing. I think that's Neil Young's whole thing, even though he's Canadian. I don't know if that's Taylor Swift's whole thing. Who knows? But very, very interesting moment in time we're at right now, and we'll see what kind of protest this results in. If this is taken further, if the threats to didn't directly threaten bodily harm, but basically said in Donald Trump's tweet that he was looking forward to when Bruce Springsteen got back in America, that it was awful brave of him to say this overseas. So take that as you will. I don't take that very well. And I think there's a lot of people that are Bruce Springsteen fans that also voted for Donald Trump and are probably sitting here like, what are we doing? Or, have a lot of questions about. I've spent, they're probably sitting there. I've spent 50 years of my life rocking to the boss, and now I have to make a decision about the guy I voted for or my love that I've spent my whole life listening to.
Here's who I immediately jump to when you say all of that. Can we get a wellness check on Chris Christie right now? Because I could see him, imagine just like Springsteen going to war. Springsteen's just sitting there like, I got to come up with a barn burner that's really going to stick it to that orange asshole. And he's just sitting in his basement. He's like, I'll never pull it off in time. And then all of a sudden, out of the shadows, you see Chris Christie step forward. May I offer my? And he just very fatly offers his services.
He's so vindicated right now.
He's
so
like, do I look
vindicated.
so bad right now, Bruce? Do I look so bad? Am I an idiot for putting smaller bags of M&Ms into bigger bags of M&Ms? Who's the idiot now, Bruce? You need me. We'll team up. I want to see a Chris Christie, Bruce Springsteen team up. I gotta have it.
Yeah, he's sprinkling in, like, he's mostly listening to Springsteen right now in celebration, but he's sprinkling in some of that Dashboard Confessional song from Spider-Man, that Vindicated song.
Yes.
Yeah, he's belting that at the top of his lungs, and you got to feel good for the guy. What a crushing moment. He got mollywopped in the election, in the primaries anyway, made to look like a fool by maybe the biggest fool on planet Earth, and then had Bruce Springsteen spurn him as well. It's like, man, he had nowhere to go. It's just that you kind of had to feel a little bad for him. And then this moment, I think, has got to feel pretty good.
I was going to say nowhere to go but up at that point. Once you touch rock bottom, once Donald Trump makes you eat meatloaf out of a trough at the White House, you really don't. The only place to go from there is up. And God bless his pea-picking little heart. It might be the time for him. And you know what? Tag in famous friend. Who else we need in the mix? Tag in famous friend of both men, Barack Obama.
Oh,
Chris Christie is like, remember when we worked together during the hurricane? Yep. Mm-hmm. Remember how you guys had a podcast that I don't know who listened to it and who it was for, but you had one. Yep. Well, I think the three of our interests align. Let the order of the triad be born.
Obama's got to broker the deal.
Obama's got a art of the deal.
Yeah, he's the neutral party. He's got to bring. It's like this is a Sopranos episode. They're gonna meet somewhere in like a back alley in New Jersey, in some greasy little Italian place, and they're gonna get a handshake deal together to take this country back.
See, I immediately think about, you've seen the show, right? The whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I immediately think about the one where little Carmine is trying to mediate that meeting between Tony and Uncle Phil, Leotardo. And that thing with your brother, whatever happened there? Whatever happened there? Oh, this fat fuck cousin. And it just, boom, off the rails. So I like to imagine that there's a high potential for that kind of thing to happen at this brokerage. But
and I think Steven Van Zandt has to be there too.
100%.
Yeah, if we're talking Sopranos, like, clearly he's got to be there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He said, he was talking about Chris Christie, and he was like, just when I thought I was out, he pulled me back in.
Oh, Chris Christie, Bruce Springsteen, Barack Obama, James Gandolfini, rest in peace. We need the whole squad. We need the ghost of James Gandolfini. We need him quick.
It's an angels in the outfield situation, I think, that we got going on here.
Yes, angels in the outhouse is what we'll call it, because of Trump, because he's a piece of shit. Get it? I made that work in my favor in the end. Shut the fuck up. Listen to the podcast.
Angels in the bada bing.
Jesus.
What do you say we talk a little bit about Bon Iver, and I'm actually very, very interested and excited to have this conversation with you, because I'm interested to see what you thought of this whole thing.
Great. I feel the same way. Let's go for it.
So Bon Iver had released, so I certainly didn't pay attention to this when it initially came out, but I guess when I noticed it when you look at it on Spotify, it's got it split into 2 discs. So the first 4 songs of the album, like if you look it up on lyrics websites, they don't really do that defining line. So it was tough to tell when I listened through and was like, didn't really pay attention to Spotify until that saw that and just clicked. So first 4 songs, dot 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 ellipsis, is that what that's called?
Yeah. Oh,
symbol?
yeah. Dot 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 is ellipsis. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't, do you think that's what it was meant to be, is just a little clever, little cheeky way to say the title of the song is ellipsis?
I
Or
guess
is it
maybe
more the vibe of that, like how you'd use that when you type it, is just like, I don't really have anything to say here, so I'm just gonna dot dot dot.
Yeah, I think it was pretty random and quirky to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But interesting enough, you say that, and ellipsis is what I kind of called it in my head canon. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, what are you gonna call dot dot dot? You know?
I think there's like 8 dots too. It's like dot 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 dot.
So so it's that song, Things Behind Things Behind Things, Space Side, which is kind of like the big first single that came out on this album, and then the song Awards Season. And then disc 2 is the rest of them. So it's only like a 40-minute album, so it's overall pretty quick. You wouldn't think something that's split into 2 would need to be 40 minutes long, but maybe we can get to that part too. So the first disc is what came out as like an EP. I don't know how long ago, a little while ago. That's why
SABLE,
Space Side has tens of millions of listens on Spotify already. A couple of the songs on the album have over 10 million listens, so still popular. Bon Iver's still doing it. Never really paid a whole lot of attention to him. What I knew about him for the most part was that he played very, very slow kind of music, very emotional music, like guy sitting in a cabin, like pouring his heart out. Like that was kind of what I imagined Bon Iver to be. Then he was on that Taylor Swift album that didn't care for. And so I kind of had an expectation going into this album that I wasn't going to like it. And I don't normally like to do that, but it was just like all signs for me were pointing towards me not enjoying this album at all. The first 4 songs certainly reinforced that for me. I was like, what have I gotten myself into?
Oh, Nelly.
So I don't, and it's not so much the lyrics, because there were certainly some like lyrical choices in that where I was like, okay, you've turned yourself inside out. You've crawled so far up yourself, and it's just like sometimes, but then I kind of realized like the lyrics aren't so bad. It's just, it seemed like the pieces just didn't quite fit together. Like there were moments where he was just singing kind of a cappella and there was no like rhythm to it. And I suppose that was the point. It just didn't work for me. And it just struck me as like exactly what I expected Bon Iver to be. And I was not looking forward to the rest of the album after that. Things certainly changed on disc 2. I don't know if you had a similar sort of experience, or you kind of could see what I'm, sort of what I experienced there, if you had a lot of experience with him previous to this.
No, did not have a lot of experience with him previous to this. I think the one song that I like can recognize and name is "I Can't Make You Love Me," and it's very like plotting, and plotting makes it sound bad because it's very emotional. That's one thing, is he can like affect a lot of emotion in the sound of his voice, which gives it a lot of character and a lot of color. And I like that. And I wasn't expecting it necessarily, but based off that song, "I Can't Make You Love Me," I went back and listened to it, and I'm like, why did I always like, I threw this on a playlist. I heard it start a million times, and I never really like went through it and appreciated it. And I have a new appreciation for it based off of this album. And this album does make me want to go and listen to more Bon Iver. I kind of sort of see what you're saying about the pieces with the lyrics, but the piece that I had to make with this is these lyrics are in a lot of cases very basic, not getting really like clever and twisty with our meaning or allusions to anything like that. It's pretty like plain spoken, but it's also very honest. And so I think that when you say the pieces didn't come together, that's how this fit together for me. It's basic, but it's very honest on a lyrical level. And then some of it was downright whimsical. And when it's married to a hook, like still climbing up that tree.
Yeah.
Like that gets repeated and repeated and repeated. And for me, didn't get annoying at any point. I found like the hooks, the emotional quality of the voice, and the basic honesty of the lyrics. That was like a winning combination for me.
Yeah. So, and it really, from like disc 2, complete, there was no miss on that for me. Like, I really truly enjoyed the entirety of disc 2. It was just like, I don't know if, I'm sure this has happened where an album has started one way and then completely went a different way, and I, didn't like it at first and really liked it at the end. This, it's got to be like the most drastic switch that any album has done with that, because I really just actively did not like those first 4 songs. Like, I felt like it was just reaffirming exactly what I kind of felt like Bon Iver was. It felt very Swifty to me. And it just, yeah. And we've said what we've said about her songwriting capabilities, but that's like what it felt like to me. I kind of softened up on him. I still don't really like him that much, but I was really just like not enjoying myself in those first 4 songs. So to swing back, and it's like it starts immediately with Short Story. It's like all of a sudden there's like kind of there's a hook and there's a beat, and I'm like, okay, now there's a flow to these lyrics. And I think just that difference in what he was putting behind the lyrics made it, and the way it would swell into some of these choruses, like specifically like Day One is fantastic. Walk Home was fantastic. Even the one with Danielle Haim, the If Only I Could Wait.
Yeah.
Like really, really, it's emotional in the right ways. It puts the hooks in the right places. It's surprising. The first time you listen through it, some of those moments kind of catch you off guard, like in a very good way. In a way similar, like Jordy Griep would kind of hit sometimes with the new sound, and I don't know if this quite reached the level of how much I liked the album of the year last year for me. But really, compared to how it started and how much I really enjoyed, and it wasn't just like, oh, this was better than the first 4. Like, I felt like if it was just disc 2 as the album, I would have considered this like among the top 10 of the year.
Holy
at the
shit.
end of the year. Like, it would be tough to beat it, because I just felt like, as pop music goes and as like indie rock goes, like it hit all of the right notes.
No pun intended. I'm legitimately shocked to hear you say that, and not like because I disagree with the quality. I didn't think you would be this enthusiastic about the album, even like it's only a portion of the album.
Trust me, brother, I did not think I was going to be that enthusiastic about it either.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, I swear this is not where I thought this was going to go. But where I diverge is I do think the first, like, especially Things Behind Things, that was what kind of got me into this. And I agree that after so it went from Things Behind Things, and I'm like, ooh, this is like moody, this is atmospheric, this is everything the National wishes he could do. And it was like really working for me in that. It was like very dark and mysterious. And then with Speyside, it kind of turned more into a term that I call waifcore. Iron and Wine.
Speyside is my least favorite song of the album.
100%. So it's like Iron and Wine, Perfume Genius is another one. They have these very like ethereal sounds to them, to their instrumentation, to the way that they sing. It's waifcore. You know what I mean? It's very like tender. You think of a very tender, small man just kind of singing his heart out in an empty room. And so all of that was like working for the most part at the beginning. Like Speyside aside, I like award season, and then like transitioning right into Short Story. I had a similar experience to you where I was like, oh, okay, shit, we hit a different gear. So I find that very interesting that SABLE the EP was put first, and there's such a remarkable difference between those songs and then starting with Short Story.
That exactly. And I think it didn't make any sense to me why that would be the case until I saw that it was 2 separate discs, and I saw like how the release went. I was like, oh, okay, so he probably just had more songs in the vibe of the fABLE part of the album, and he just like had SABLE because that's the kind of stuff I feel like he's always kind of done. But there was a ton of like R&B elements. There was some lo-fi stuff in there. There was even
Mhm.
in that "If Only I Could Wait" song, it almost sounded like an 80s like synth pop song. Like there was some like really cool moments in this, and even the "Au revoir" at the end, even though there's nothing lyrical to it, it's just like a musical piece to kind of take you home. Like it just felt very fitting. Like all of it just felt very fitting. It felt like a very well crafted album. I'd be interested if there's more stuff that if he does more stuff that sounds like this, then I'd be very interested in listening to a lot of his past stuff. If it's more like the first four songs, probably not too interested. I'll just stick with Fable. But it is an album that I think I'm gonna go back and continue listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that. Listening to this more and then going back, this compelled me to go back to the beginning. Um, and I would be curious to know how much of the lo-fi is carried over, how much of that is an experiment for this one, because that was some of the stuff that worked especially well, is leaning into the lo-fi and then leaning into like the weird genre swings in certain places. Like you said, If Only I Could Wait. Um, it's got that kind of like synthy, pseudo ballady element to it. And then Danielle Hyam as a dance partner on that one is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I have a dumb affinity, I think, for Everything Is Peaceful Love. I just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like that hook on that kills
Mm-hmm.
me.
And
It's just I want to.
you know who it reminds me of, and it just hit me now, is Hosier. Like it's got a lot of
Yeah.
like kind of Hosier vibes, and that's probably because I enjoy Hosier. Like every single album he's done, like there's not really much Hosier I don't enjoy. And that this very much, I guess, it's exactly why it kind of very much fits in that vein.
And damn if I'm not climbing up a tree right now. Like, just had to sneak that in there.
Yeah. And their big
Yeah,
choruses, like their big hooks, like it's just all very good.
yeah, fantastic, wonderful. And I agree. The compare is it Hosier or Hosier? How are you supposed to say it?
I think
Does it
Hosier.
matter?
I
Hosier,
think Hosier is how you say it. Like kosher, but
Hoser,
Hosier.
kosher hoser. Oh, there's a little tongue twister for you.
Yeah.
Kosher hoser.
That's how we're gonna have to warm up for the show.
Yes, the Human Torch was denied a bank loan. Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a lot of similarities. Again, for me as a vocalist, it does often come back to the character of the voice. You don't have to have an especially beautiful one for it to sound awesome. Tom Waits proved
Mm-hmm.
that way back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm all about like character, interesting choices. Unfortunately, like the Jack Black effect, people will like torch Eddie Vedder jaw rock. Too many people came along and like did a bad version of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's one of the most like unique, interesting sounds, especially from that time period. All of which is to say, you got an interesting voice. It doesn't have to be great. But
Mm-hmm.
here you happen to have like I think Bon Iver has um, like a really wonderful, wonderful voice and adds a lot of character to it. Does some really interesting stuff that gives it color, gives it dimension, makes it a personality, which again helps those lyrics really shine because it's underscoring the authenticity of what he's talking about. So I think for me, that's the particular appeal. And when you put that to like kind of these bright hooks and then some of these moodier moments, he can do a lot of things well, a lot of different things well. So I really appreciated that about this album. It did a lot of different things that were very interesting and like pleasurable to listen to. And I think that is a lot of what it comes down to me is like this was pleasurable to listen to.
Yes.
There are certain albums where it's like I'm not having a bad time, but I'm not necessarily like indulging in this. Like this album's got that like bubble bath on Molly kind of feel to it where you're like, oh damned if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
climbing up a tree right now.
Yeah, it's very, very good. Yeah, I think in the interest of, was there anything more specifically that you wanted to make sure you got to? I don't know what your battery life is looking like on your phone.
Yeah, we're Yeah, we're getting close, and I can tell the connection's kind of like your picture's
Yeah.
frozen right now. A little inside
So
baseball, folks.
yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead, and I think we're both, sounds like we're both pretty bullish on this album. And even though I really didn't like that first chunk of it, the second part of it more than made up for it. So this is actually going to be a buy it for me.
Wow, he's gonna pick up those 4 bonus songs and weather the storm in order to get the full
Mhm.
shebang. Not having had that problem, having liked the whole thing, obviously, what are you supposed to do with ellipsis necessarily? And Space Guide is other than that, I enjoy it. This album went by like that. It's like 40 minutes long and it feels like 10
Mhm.
minutes. Um, it's just a good ride. I appreciated it. I had fun. It was a nice way to go on this mission now to listen to more Bon Iver. So I will also give it a buy it.
Yeah, that's and since you liked more of the album, you're buying like the special edition, like the special color vinyl.
I'm buying exactly what I signed up for. 11 tracks of smack or however many there are on there. That's what I came for.
Well, folks, hopefully this episode comes through just fine. I think the audio will be fine no matter what. So I think we're golden either way. So it's a buy it for Bon Iver from both of us. Something I thought I'd never hear coming from me.
Yeah.
You're Yeah, I just never thought that'd come from me. But really, really do recommend checking out this album. And if you like those first 4 songs, then that's just gravy, baby. That's even better because the other 9 make up for it for me. They're that good. And if you like the other 4, then this is probably going to be a top album of the year for you.
Hot damn. And, there's still a lot of year left, but you can catch up with all of our episodes and see the trajectory that this takes, this little journey that we're on and have been on for years and years now. Good for us. This was a pandemic pod that survived into modern times. God bless us. God bless us, everyone, at youtube.com/C/out on that line. Folks, I ain't much left of me now, battery wise. So it's got to be a short one this week. I just need you to keep the faith. I need you to subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you turn notifications on so that when we put stuff out, you hear about it. The good word. Give it a thumbs up. The video needs a big, juicy thumbs up, baby. And I'll, of course, leave your comments in the comment section. Duh. So it's very pleasing to the algorithm when you do that. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of that premium feature and communicate with us. We like to talk back sometimes. We like to talk back. We like to talk smack. We like to just see how you're doing on a Tuesday. So why don't you just come join us? It's the simplest thing to do, folks. It's Occam's podcast at youtube.com/C/out on that line.
That was wonderful. Folks, till next time.